We are cracking on with our last panel before we go on to a quick coffee break. So I would please ask you to give them your full, undivided attention if you could. And we're going to be diving into the world of sports brands now, looking more at building a sports brand that can stretch beyond borders. And if you are leaving the room, I would just ask if you can do it silently, please. So, undeniably, sports is a truly great unifier of our time, right? So it's a global phenomenon that stretches beyond borders. It permeates across cultures and societies. Likewise, brands can be similar cultural institutions. And they do exhibit sort of similar senses of identity and cultural influences as well. So the greatest brands do become universal and globally loved. Therefore, what is the secret sauce? And that's what we're going to be diving into today, that can propel a brand from a small fish to a truly global phenomenon and gain worldwide affection and recognition. And with us to discuss that today, we have an esteemed panel. So please, if you give them a very warm round of applause as your last panel before the break, Vanessa Basora from Sevilla FC, Stefano from Inter, Ignacio Soriano from FIBA, Joe Hale from Dragon Rouge, and your host for the session, Reem Abdelazem from AS. Warm round of applause, please. That's right.
Hello. It's on. Thank you, James, for the introduction. It's really nice to be back. Good morning. And see some familiar faces from last year. Thank you, Laura and Patricio, wherever you are, for organizing the event. It's great, as always. I'm excited to be here with four very powerful individuals and talking about a topic that I think is very interesting, and it's building a sports brand that can stretch beyond borders. Without further ado, I would love for the speakers to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about what they do.
Hi everyone, my name is Ignacio Soriano. I am the FIBA 3x3 Head of Events and Partnerships. I've been with the 3x3 project since basically the beginning, meaning 2012. So I hope I can explain you today about the growth and the strategy behind our second basketball discipline.
Hello everyone, my name's Joe Hale. I'm CEO of Dragon Rouge in London. We're a global brand strategy and design agency. A lot of work in sports, helping clubs, associations, teams, leagues to grow their relevance around the world and to mean more to more people. So looking forward to sharing some of our experience alongside the peers here today.
Hello, everyone. This is Stefano from Inter Campus, the CSR department of Inter Milano. What we do is basically using sport for social development, and we do this all around the world through multilateral cooperation projects. And we are really focused on children's rights, and especially the right to play. So I don't know, maybe not everyone knows, children, they have the right to play. This must be really important for them. If there is a right, the United Nations try to promote and defend this right. And yes, when we decided to do something for social development, we asked ourselves, what can we do with sport and with football? Well, we can help children and defend this right. Of course, this is the general mission, but then according to specific locations, specific countries, we have other objectives like prevention to drugs, crime, or fostering gender equality. We see this is also a topic of today's presentation. Yes, children are quite young, from 6 to 13. And they are part of Inter family, even living very, very far from Milano.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Basora. I am the Global and Digital Director of Sevilla FC. I'm working in Sevilla FC during the last 4 years, and I am in charge of the brand strategy, so something that we are going to speak today, the global strategy and also the digital strategy. So well, this is in a summary what I am doing in Sevilla FC.
Thank you. Very excited to be here with all four of you. Vanessa, I'll actually start with you. I'm keen to gain insights into Sevilla's like approach to branding and how they go by their expanding their presence and brand globally. So why is the global strategy, in your opinion, so important for the club?
It's so important because I think that if we have to summarize in one sentence, I think that if you grow, you are going to have more revenues, no? So I think that, okay. So that's the reason, because finally we are all of us competing with that, no? Because we have two kind of strategies inside the club. We have the local approach and the international approach. The local fans, the only that we can do is to keep them and to build a loyalty with them, so it's different. And internationally, we have a huge potential, no? But we have to engage with them, so the strategy is absolutely different, no? So when I arrived to the club 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago, the club was thinking about, the club had grown a lot in the sportive side, but not in the corporate side, no? That's the reason, because they felt that it was the moment, no, to create a strategical plan, but to boost not the sportive side, if not the corporate side. So it means that from that moment, we are working in different projects, where the first one was to construct or to rebrand, no, our brand, because we are going to speak later, no, but we have a lack of consistency. We were talking about only to the local fans, so we needed to change that at that moment. We needed to be more global, so it was another point that we are going to speak today, and to be more digital, no? So I think that the things are changing in the sports and in life, no? And with the digital channels and the digital, we can arrive to the people. So we have a huge opportunity, but the huge opportunity also is with a consistent and an important brand.
Lovely. Joe, over to you.
Thank you.
There are so many points that I would love for you to share with the audience today, because we had the opportunity to talk about some of these things last night and just what you had sent over and stuff. And I think the one that really stuck with me was something you said, that you've got to know who you are and what you stand for in the minds of your audiences before you can stretch. Can you please elaborate more on that?
I'll try. I think even just this morning we have heard and seen the kind of crazy tension in terms of opportunity in front of brands in sport and the disruption also against you as well. So it's a crazy time. And I think, or we believe strongly as an agency, in order to plot your course effectively, whether that is growth across geographical borders or whether that's growth and penetration into new attitudes and new consumer groups, you need to know who you are first. You need to know what you stand for, whether that's an association, a club, whatever your function and role is. You need to know who you are, what makes you different, and what space emotionally you want to own in the minds of your audiences. Because we all have to stand for something that's more than just winning. We all have to stand for something that's more than just competition. These are quite binary subjects. And I think in order to grow emotional engagement, in order to humanize your club, and that's through the players, the assets that you own, but also to draw a much closer connection to fans, wherever you are, whether you're a core fan or you're an enthusiast, cultural enthusiast, you need an idea that binds together all of your activation, your content, your partnerships. And to Esteban's point from FIBA, that gives you as a brand the ability to have a longer form story, okay? But you can also activate with short form content underneath that. If you're just short form, anybody can come up with some, brilliant, catchy, shareable, viral content. But if it doesn't root with someone, then they're on to the next immediately. So our work is really to help clubs to build a long strategy, to execute against that with high frequency, but to build a long form strategy that starts with who we are and why we're different. We've had the pleasure of working with PSG for the last 10 years, and to see quite an incredible journey from a national football team to what is as close, I think, as we can get to almost a lifestyle and fashion brand now, tells us and tells me that strategy pays dividends. And if you define a core idea like we did with PSG and dream bigger, you can have something to execute against in multiple formats and forms. But you own and occupy a more resonant space in the minds and the hearts of people that you want to influence and be there for. Does that work?
Oh, totally works. Yeah,
good.
actually, I don't know about everyone here, but sometimes when I speak with CEOs and very important people who have done amazing
That's not
things, I feel like there are lots of terms that I don't understand, and that's maybe because I'm in a different field or whatever it is. But when I hear something so personal and something that always brings back the purpose of why they do what they do, it's like a whole other world for me personally. So I really appreciate hearing that, and it personalizes being in an agency so much from my perspective. So I 100% have enjoyed that and love hearing that.
Good.
And I think they did too. I'm going to move on to Stefano. Lots of things. What you just said about children and children having the right to do whatever, to dream, to play, that wasn't one of the questions that I had prepared, but I would love for you to talk a little bit more about this, because I think it's such an important thing, and it's a topic that sometimes is just lost in everything else.
And by the way, this is one of the few differences between the Children Charter of Rights and the Human Charter of Rights, so adults. We, as adults, we don't have this right to play. I don't know if this is correct or not. Maybe we should play a little bit more. But this means, of course, that for children is really, really important having like fun activities, having recreational activities, and sport can play a major role in this sense. Of course, while they are playing, they are learning. It is like going to school, but having fun. And this is nothing related to Inter in the specific. It could be Sevilla, it could be basketball. It's the power of sport. It's the power of the ball that involves them and open their ears and make them listen to you. And in that moment, you have the responsibility to teach them proper things, the values of sports that are already there. So again, it's not inventing anything. It's just acting properly and, yes, behave correctly.
Absolutely, love. Thank you for that. Speaking of the power of sport, I am going to move over to Ignacio. There's so much also to talk about, and I think you have done something incredible over the last 7 to 10 years with your sport, 3x3, not 3x3. Yes. Before I allow you to talk about all the good stuff, would you like us to show the video first?
Please, no. Yeah.
We can play anywhere. We can play on top of a building, we can play on the beach, we can play on the park.
We had no clue how quick these games are, how fast-paced they are. You know, take it out of the net and you just go, 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 go. Basically a 10-minute sprint.
3-on-3 played in this fashion is incredibly exciting. Look at this terrific crowd. It's a very intimate setting. You're right up on the court. The games are short, highly competitive. I just think it's fantastic.
would like to mix up 3x3 sports with entertainment like hip-hop, breakdancing, alongside these events. It will be closer to the basketball fans to entertain them as well.
Well, I've just seen 3x3 is the most urban thrilling sport, team sport in the world. So our events are a mixture of sport and entertainment, and obviously we want to keep it this way. We're open for everyone. Our strategy is to host our events in downtown locations, in iconic places with high traffic areas. True is that our footprint allows us to basically play everywhere. I think the video has been a good example. We can play in malls, we can play in UNESCO protected heritage sites, we can play basically everywhere. And we can differentiate in terms of hosting from regular basketball, whereas in 3x3 everyone can host an event, whereas it's a private promoter, where it's a national federation, it's an NGO, and we have tons of examples. And also we have basically a full menu for everyone, and we have events for all kinds of budgets, meaning basically from zero, from scratch, to over $5 million US dollars, which is the approximate cost of our top event in the year. No? So basically this is flexibility. We can be everywhere. We reach to all the fans. You have seen in the video, we have activation areas, we have fan engagement, we have activities for the fans. So we bring basketball to all the public, not only the basketball fans.
7 years from streets to the Olympics.
Correct.
Crazy. Yeah. And as someone who's been involved in sports my whole life, I know how difficult it is for a new sport to come in and just boom, make its way to the Olympic Games. Like squash has been around for years and years, and it's, you know, only now is it getting attention to come into the next Olympic Games. So I think that's incredible. And as someone instrumental in managing events and partnerships at FIBA, tell us a little bit about the key initiatives and strategies that contributed to this immense growth in your sport.
Well, I think that first of all, being in the top cities around the world helps you building the brand, right? So we just finished our World Tour number 100 in Amsterdam, and we started in 2012 with the first event. So basically being in Amsterdam, being in Shanghai, being in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in all these major cities helps in building a credibility of the brand. And the growth that we had since 2012 when I started, we had 10 events in the first season, and our season was starting in June until late August, early September, right? Nowadays, so this year we have over 100 events. Our season starts in March and finishes just basically before Christmas, no? And for instance, our prize money for the players was 100K in 2012, and now we are over 5 million US, no? This proves that the sport is growing, that we are starting to have some years ago professional players. Obviously with the Olympic inclusion of 3x3, this helps a lot. And now we see players that they only train, they only play, and they only get conditioned for 3x3, no? Because it's a completely different discipline of basketball, and what the skills required for 3x3 and 5-on-5 are different.
Incredible, really amazing. I feel like if like my athletes, little athletes that I coach now, I feel like telling them to switch over to 3x3. I think it's amazing what you've done in such a short amount of time. Vanessa, we're gonna go over to you again and talk a little bit about the role of the brand from your perspective. Like, why is it so important in terms of internationalization?
I think that the brand it's important in the organization, but especially international if you want to grow. So in our case, the first step, no, when you want to grow, we had to rethink which was the brand, no, and you have to be an attractive brand. Especially it's important because when I am talking to my students, because sometimes I am teacher, no, when we are talking about brand is a meaning, no, and a meaning. It means that you have a positioning, you have very clear what you have to do, what you want to be, no? And for that reason, I think it's super clear, no? In our case, when we started with that, we had a lack of consistency. We were very focused on the sportive side. it's important a brand, and I'm meaning because if not, the clubs are very depending on the results of the team, and it's something that we cannot control. And if we want to grow, we need to be in other territories. I mean, in the sportive side for sure, and you have to take advantage when you win, but sometimes you cannot win, so you have to explain in other things. So that's the reason because you need to get to the new audiences. That's the reason because you need to construct more meanings, no, beyond the brand. In our case, we start from zero, but it was true that it was a lack of consistency, but we were very rich in the history of the club, in the heritage of the city, so we had a lot of things, no? So what we did is to put a little bit of order in order to have our positioning very clear. The purpose of the club, I think that the purpose of the brand, sorry, because I think it's very important, because then you can, it's the brand for the guide for the business decisions, so you have to understand which are the brand purpose, which is your positioning, which is the projects that are going to help you, to achieve this purpose and this idea, and have it very clear. When you have that, then you can go to the market, because if not, what do you have to speak to the people? So it's very important to understand what could be important for the local and for the international people to have this attractive, to have a positioning different from the rest of the clubs and the rest of the sportive entities that are fighting for the same, and be very consistent and do it for a long time. It's a question. If it's not a short term, it's a long term. It's something that the organizations should understand, because it's not okay, we are going to do that in the next year. We are going to achieve that. No, it's very difficult. It's very challenging, and you need to put a lot of resources for that.
Amazing. The compound effect, no? Just consistency over a long period of time and making it that way. Joe, back to you. Let's talk about assets and audience. Why is it important for you to define a brand architecture, and how do brands cross category borders?
Yeah, I maybe give a case to give an example on this one. We've spent the last 18 months working with Bayern Munich. I believe Thomas was here this time last year talking. Bayern's and the work we've done will find its way out into the world in January, so I can't share anything now, but that's been a really interesting case, we believe, in brand architecture, solely to try and raise the appeal, awareness actually, and appeal and growth of the Bayern brand globally. Incredible club, they've won 11 championships in a row, but still nobody's second club really. There's a winning machine inside of Bayern, but there's an amazing human and an emotional story that needs to come out. So that's been the job, is to find ways to make them more relevant. And starting to work with the club, you could only see men's football. That was all you could see. Now, to the basketball enthusiasts and aficionados in the room, that they've got an incredibly strong basketball team as well. They've had a women's football team for almost 4 decades, which people don't know about, especially in a category that is just rocketing at the moment. They have an esports division. They have a legends team, and they have an incredible campus which represents kids, boys and girls from all over the world, who move from their homes and their roots and their families and live there. So there was actually an enormously rich story to tell and to present to the world, but you couldn't see it because of men's football, and you couldn't see it because of red and blue and a dominant color palette. So our work was to essentially say, the master brand over the top of Bayern München, see yourselves as a global sport and entertainment brand. You need to detach that to create some room for your products and your assets to shine. That will help you commercially. It will also help you from a positional sense as well. So the role of the master brand across the top, that's ultimately organizational strategy. It's sustainability strategy, both environmental and social. It's strategic partnerships for the ownership model in the Bundesliga. But the role of the sub-brands, why do we have sub-brands? Well, we have them because they represent different sports, and therefore they appeal to different audiences with slightly different needs, passions, and interest areas. So you need to make those assets work as hard as you can in order to for them to feel relevant, to feel engaging, to be channels effectively where you can serve content. You can experiment with new types of content. It's almost a de-risking strategy because you've got more channels and doors to more markets. So now Bayern has 6 sub-brands underneath its master brand. So it has men's football, it has women's football, and they sit on the same level from an architectural point of view. That's a big change, a very, very big change. And then, as I say, you have basketball, and esports and legends and next gen. Each of those sub-brands has a slightly different branded style to them. And we're talking about identity, typeface. It might be color, image treatment. Because, as I say, they are appealing to slightly different audiences, but they all belong to the Bayern family. So you can see core assets and features in all of them that make them part of the family, but they have a distinct style. So as I say, this gives the club of Bayern a lot more flexibility and a lot more channels. It's a bit like a Sky model. You've got F1, you've got football, you've got channels to play within and serve content that feel more relevant to more people. And they will draw now, because they've got a greater voice individually and collectively, they'll draw in new commercial partnerships. They can reach geographically. I think Bayern as a club has the largest membership of any football club in the world. It's almost 500,000 paid members, which is an astonishing geographical footprint. But the opportunity to grow that by broadening and widening and opening the club up is phenomenal. So there's room for growth just within your core base. But they also had the advantage, again, it's an unexploited advantage where they have physical footprints in New York, in Bangkok, and in Beijing. Not many clubs have those types of things. So going back to the defining who you are as a club, what you can then do is equip your internal teams with what that idea is and the sort of editorial plan that can then be executed within those local countries and communities and connect through influencers and into microcultures and things like that. So I think there was a phrase, we need to be a bit more sophisticated. I don't like over-engineering strategy, but it's important to have a strategy. So that's largely what we're doing with, have done with Bayern Munich, is to open the club up to be more relevant to more people and to communicate all the things that they do.
Love it. For some reason, my mind put it together as like the same upbringing in a family, but with each different characters.
Well, it's really interesting because their basketball. There's a motto that we've termed as the bloodline for Bayern Munich because it's like the lineage of a family, right? Which is Mir San Mir. So that translates in English simply to "we are who we are." So our first question was, but who are you? And not many people could answer that inside the club because it was just a thing that people say to each other. But who are you? But the basketball team didn't feel like they could use Mir San Mir on their kit because they hadn't won anything. Because that was their own interpretation, even within the family, of what Mir San Mir meant. Because the men's football team is so trophied. But when we deconstructed what Mir San Mir actually means, it's a number of things. It's pride and belonging in Bavaria and in the club. It's unsatisfied hunger. It's the basketball team could totally relate to all of those, and now they feel like they are part of the family. So it's not just visually, but it's also, just through, just through the idea and the deconstruction of something which has lived within a family for almost 100 years, but is so well known, it's almost not thought about.
It's amazing, and it really does make you feel like you're part of a much bigger family, Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Joe. Stefano, let's get to our next question with you. Let's see. Okay, let's go to crisis management. Physiological ups and downs of brands. How do we reduce these risks? What's your take on this?
Yes, I think that CSR can help in building brand value and brand identity in sport and in football clubs as well. I think what matters is culture and education. Unfortunately, we deal almost every day with this crisis situation. Maybe we have to call everyday management, not crisis management, because it is a shame, but it is like this. And we've touched a bit this point also in previous panels. maybe we can have some examples of kind of crisis or situation that can affect brand value, the reputation of your club, and also the financial part of the balance sheet. I have in mind, refer to Italy, for example, fans' attitude that can damage the image of your club. Also, players' attitude. We discussed before about using players as testimonials, as leaders, as examples. Most of the time it is like this, but of course they are human and they can make mistakes. And then as a club, you have to manage this. Or even dealing with events and structures and big buildings, for example, hosting many people in the same place could be risky. In Italy, for example, we have a big issue related to racism and people booing at the stadium. Sometimes we stop the matches. Sometimes clubs, in past years, clubs have the responsibility to respond to the act of fans and people at the stadium. Nowadays, it's no more like this. It is slightly different. And again, CSR helps because if clubs they prove to mitigate these attitudes, these behaviors, then they are no more responsible. So again, educating people, educating children in valorizing differences, in respect, in collaborating, in supporting rather than offending. This, of course, it's an element. These days, unfortunately, we see many news about betting in Italian football. This is also an issue, and also through education, in this case, education for athletes can help. At least you can prove, as a club, you did everything you could to avoid this situation. Normally we refer, when dealing with crisis management, we refer to the legal department. Okay, how can we do, is there like a law we can refer to and be safe? Or the communication department, how should we communicate, how should we manage this situation? But then CSR, again, in thinking in long term, CSR could be at the basis to give people the tools to prevent these situations. And lastly, I've mentioned the events, big events. Like I was in Madagascar this summer, and there was the Ocean Olympic Games, the island of the Ocean Pacific. And unfortunately, during the opening ceremony, some people died because of the crowd that was around the stadium. And unfortunately, this is not like a unique case. This happens. This happened in Italy, like people attending the Champions League final of Juventus in the city. So it was not a building referred to the club. It was a public space, but there were so many people that escaping. Some of them were injured, others died. So I think this is like really serious. We have to prevent this situation in order for clubs to survive, because this has an impact in financial terms, in reputational terms, not only for the club, but for the ecosystem. Okay, if we consider betting, for example, if players start betting, this affects not only them, of course, the club, of course, but the industry overall.
Yeah, the culture, well, overall, no? Yeah, education and culture, the words for everything we need in this world. And speaking of culture, now over to you, Ignacio. Let's see, how does FIBA approach the challenge of creating a sports brand that resonates with different cultures, diverse cultures and regions around the world?
Well, I think we have touched several points which are quite important. First, CSR or sustainability, no? We in CX3, we have been the first basketball competition in the world to be sustainable by BSI with the ISO 20121 for sustainable events. So this, I think, it's very important for us and for the community, no? Then also with corporate social responsibility, we work with every authorities once we host events. 3x3 is very inspirational, right? You see them from when you're a kid, and you see, hey, from the Suits to the Olympics, so why not me, right? So you see, you're very close to the athletes. Also our events, very intimate setting, so you can basically touch the athletes also in Olympic Games, no? We want to keep it this way. So I think being so much inspirational, we're reaching a lot of audiences, wide audiences, and with, being in all continents, we have continental cups with it in Africa, in Asia, in Americas, in Europe. So this added to the fact of my colleague Esteban that before he said some key points with Streamers Cup and to reach wider audiences. And basically our events being in the heart of the city, we reach those audiences that are not basically focused only in basketball, no? So I think it's a mixture of all of this that is the key to success, but you cannot forget CSR, you cannot forget sustainability, and you need to mix, or at least in our case, sport with entertainment.
I like it, and if you don't mind me sharing what you told me earlier, that you don't necessarily have to be a basketball fan to to like the sport, but it's true. It's a smart strategy, and
thanks.
Along with everything else, it works. Vanessa, over to the next question. Achieving new audiences. I know we're going over the same points more or less, but for you, for the strategy of Sevilla, how did they reach new audiences, and what was their strategy to really stretch and make it past borders?
Well, what we are doing is, first of all, we have, it's impossible to go everywhere, so we have to define which are our key markets, no? And it seems something stupid, but it's true, no? Because at the beginning we want to be everywhere, and you have to focus because it's difficult and it's in a long term, and you have to invest a lot. So we have 4 markets or 4 regions, no? That is China, India, MENA, and Mexico / US, no? But it's the Latinos people, because it's we have to focus there, no? So what we are doing there is we are going with local agencies. I think that we cannot connect with Indian people, with Moroccan people, or with Mexican people from Sevilla. So we need local agencies that could understand what they need. The culture is absolutely different, the insights, the level of knowledge about the club. So we are working with one local agency in each country. They are helping us in 3-4 pillars. No, one is the digital part. It's okay. We have to communicate, and we have the opportunity to communicate around the world. We are doing in the different platforms. So each country is absolutely different. So in China, we are in the typical Weibo, Douyin, no? So in the typical Chinese platforms, obviously in their language, no? So we are trying to be there, and in the rest the same, no? And we are trying to have always on content, so we have to be there always, not just only speaking about Sevilla FC, because our goal is to grow, so we need to have this engagement, no? With a lot of entertainment, with a lot of content connected with the local festivities, with the local influencers. I think that before this panel you were talking about influencers. It's key because it's the connection between the club, no, and the brand, and the new audiences. And we are trying to be always there. This is one part. Then we have the activations or events, no. Also, it's very important to be on site, so I think it's important to have different kind of activations. Summer tour, for instance, friendly matches, match parties. We are working very close to the fan clubs, no, doing activities in order that not all the fans could go to the stadium or to Sevilla, but we have to go to them, no, and to do things with them in order to be more close to them. And also in the B2C, in the B2B, so we are trying to also to be in the summits. We are trying to be connected with different clubs, with different partners, strategical partners. We are working in La India. We are working with a club, but we are not owners of the club. It's a win-win agreement, no, because they are trying to help us, no, to be in La India, to have new leads, new partners. Also, they are very connected with one of our pillars, that is the innovation. Another strategical partners is La Liga. We are working, I don't know if in the previous panel there were a girl not from La Liga. We are working very close with La Liga because they are helping us also to grow. And also with the communication, it's another part that it's very important because it's not the same communication in Sevilla that in China. So we need also to be working very close to the local media, to the broadcasters. It's where we have the opportunity to explain who we are. And the last part, no, it's the commercial side, no. But it's more in a long term because the three first pillars are working for the last one, no. If we could be more visible, we could grow, we could have more visibility with more, be a strong brand. Finally, we are going to achieve more commercial agreements, and this is the approach that we have.
Excellent. I saw James peeking, which means that time is almost up. So we're gonna, I had hopes for the panel, for the audience to maybe ask some questions and stuff, but maybe for the next time. And for now, just to finish, I have one more question. It's for you, Joe, but you guys are free to also comment on it. And it's how's technology, OTTs, AI, how does it help brands keep the interest off season and then maximize the brand's footage too? I thought that's a personal one that I really want to get the answer to.
I don't know the answer to this. It's, I think there was some brilliant reflections and experiences shared earlier. Who the hell knows where this is all going to go, to be honest. A dreamlike state for me personally. I'm a massive fantasy football player. So I'd love to be able to watch every player that's in my fantasy football team at the same time on one screen. Slightly selfish, but I do think we're going to get to a place where we as the fan, as the consumer, can conduct and control content in the way we want it to. We're largely there, I think. I think think what you will about Live Golf and its principles and morals and things like that, but through their app, I think they've done some really interesting disruptive stuff where you can effectively watch what you want to watch pre, in, and post. So if I just want to watch par 3 holes, I can watch just the par 3 holes. If I just want to watch one team, I can just watch one team. If I want to watch the putting competition before the game, I can watch that. So they've really thought about content. I think AI is and will continue to have a profound effect, both in the immersive fan experience, but also I think at an organizational level. I think there's someone here from, Marielle is probably here from the IPC. But there's a platform we were talking about last night called Igolai, Swahili word, which is an AI platform, and there are many out there that effectively takes redundant footage and then indexes that and catalogs all of that to create ultimately a library of your footage if you're an association or a club, and commercialize that in like ridiculous speed and with incredible accuracy. So if you're a content creator, you're looking to license that content, I think the IPC are now rightly making significant commercial returns out of something that was just sat there redundant in the past. So there's quite big commercial level effects they can have. Long form, everyone was obsessed with Drive and what that did and what it's done for the sport. And again, ultimately that is about stories. It's about people, it's about relationships, it's about the characters underneath the helmet. And in the pits, not just in the car. So you have just a far richer experience and I think emotional connection to the sport as you did with, Full Swing, was it? On the golf front or whatever those sports might be. So out of season stuff is brilliant because it helps you to peak and retain engagement with fans and utilize your players, your assets, their passions. But you all know that, right? If we all had a crystal ball, it'd be a damn sight easier, this stuff.
Thank you, Joe. A little bit of disruption in the market is not always a bad thing,
not
like it used to be in the past.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add quickly before we're done with the session? We're good, Ignacio? Okay, well, sadly, this has come to an end, but thank you so much for such insightful notes, and I know I've learned a lot. I hope the audience has as well, and until next time, thank you.